Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Week 12 recap on Fan to Fan Sports Network. Today, we're recapping Texas' 20-10 win in Fayetteville, Arkansas, over the Razorbacks this past week. Texas goes in, takes care of business. Arkansas played well. Nathan, I think we kind of nailed our prediction. We'll get to that in a minute. But Arkansas played well in this game, but just not well enough to come out on top of the final score. Texas's ability to turn Arkansas over and just kind of wear down Arkansas towards the end just showed up in the final score of this game. But it was a great game nonetheless, a good renewal of a rivalry, even though I don't think Texas knows that it is a rivalry. I think they needed to be aware of that. But it was a good game. It's about what we expected, and let's jump into what happened in this one. So what did Texas do, Nathan, to end up, just like I said, not playing their best ball? I don't think Texas has played their best ball yet all year. If they have, it was against Florida a week ago. But I don't think Texas has played their best ball. But what did they do to come out ahead on the final score in this game?
Yeah, they just executed where they needed to. I think the biggest thing was getting those turnovers and really securing the victory there. I know they didn't execute as much as they would have liked to. They would have liked to have blown Arkansas out of the water, but obviously that's not the way it went. I felt like Quinn Ewers made a few mistakes in there, and that, of course, they weren't really effective. I mean, I credit Arkansas's defense and the way they played because they came out of the tunnel ready to take care of business, and for the most part, they were able to get Texas off the field on third downs and force punts when they needed to. It's just Arkansas offense that didn't come through. And in reality, Arkansas was in this game. I mean, even going into halftime, you still felt like Arkansas was in a good scenario, getting the ball in to start the second half. And unfortunately, Arkansas, when it came down to it, chance to make it a one-possession game, they ended up turning the ball over, crucial turnover, and basically from there, Texas just ran the clock out. Look, Arkansas was very competitive, and I think that's one thing you love to see from that fan base. It hasn't been the greatest year for them. It hasn't been the greatest few years, past 5 years probably, if you want to date back. I know there's some good years in there, but for the most part, you have to look at the good in the loss. I know that's hard to do. No one likes to lose, but Arkansas showed a lot of good things. You just need to really improve the offense. I think they need to run the ball much better if they wanted to win the game. Which it comes more down to the offensive line. I don't think it's just the matter of not having the talent to compete. It's just they didn't have what it took to win the game. But I mean, they were in the game. A few things go wrong for Texas. I think Arkansas ends up winning. This game's in a different time frame. I think it could be a different scenario. The atmosphere wasn't what it usually is for this type of game. And I attribute that to being the 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff, which ultimately it feels like it kills the sport. It kills some of these big games. But then on the flip side, you also have the complete opposite result with some of these other matchups. But in this one, Texas just did enough of what they needed to really get the win. And like you said, I don't think they played their best ball yet. It's hard to say how good this Texas team is because of the level of competition they have faced. And they have played an SEC schedule, but the SEC teams that they have played haven't been the greatest. I've seen questionable things in every single one, including the Georgia loss, which is definitely the most prevalent. If you're a Texas fan, you've wiped it from your memory. You're in a good scenario down the stretch to really – I mean, you control your own destiny. You got to take care of business the rest of the way. The matchup against Texas A&M is going to be a big one. It's pretty much a decider who goes to the SEC championship. I know Texas really wants to battle out for that first round bye. You gotta beat Texas A&M first, and then whoever you meet in the SEC championship. It's not going to be easy, especially with what Texas has faced thus far throughout the season. Do they have the talent? Absolutely. The coaching, fantastic. Cesar Keegan is a fantastic coach. I'm sure if there's a coach in this league that can get it done, it's him. But you can't ignore where they've fallen short last year and then what they've done this year and where they need to improve currently. Because the season's, I mean, it's coming to an end fast. We're getting into that postseason play, and you got to flip a switch at some point, and your production has to increase. You got to execute to a finite level, and you can't afford to make these big mistakes that they have made in some of these games. Hasn't cost them yet. It will cost them if you're talking about playoffs or SEC championship, anything like that.
Yeah. Talking specifically on Texas, I like the point that you made that, and I said this earlier. I don't think they've played their best ball yet. This team is extremely talented. They have experience, playmakers all over the field, some really good talent on the defensive end as well. I don't think this Texas team has had their best 60 minutes yet. And you said, yes, they've played an SEC schedule, but they haven't played the SEC schedule that I think some of these other teams have played, like a Georgia, like an Ole Miss, like an Alabama. So it is a little tough to judge. I think their best game thus far has been that Florida game a week ago. But moving forward for Texas, you can't think or you can't be upset knowing that you are one of the only teams, especially in the SEC, that has control over their destiny and has control of where they play moving forward. There's all the other teams sitting at 2 conference losses right now are like just waiting for that Texas A&M game, just like you mentioned. It's just like, well, what happens then? Texas is sitting there. If they control their own destiny, if they run the table, if they're able to go beat A&M, whoever they play in that SEC championship, and then try and compete for that first-round bye, that's exactly what Texas was wanting to do all year long. And that's what this team is built to do. Pushing the conversation a little bit back to Arkansas, Nathan, I know you mentioned that, this hasn't been a very good 5-year, 10-year stretch for the Razorbacks as a Razorback football fan. But you got to think you're playing some of the best football you have in that 5-year stretch. And yes, I'll never sit up here and say, use those moral victories and that sort of thing, because yes, you did not win this game. Yes, you wanted to win this game, and you could have won this game, but it should give Arkansas fans a new little light moving forward, because at the end of last year, they were fully prepared to fire Sam Pittman and restart this whole process over. Now you got a couple wins under your belt. Recruiting starting to pick up a little more than it was before. You're starting to land some in-state kids, keeping Texas and LSU and the Mississippi schools and the Alabama schools in Tennessee away from the Arkansas high school talent. That is huge for Sam Pittman. He's starting to pick that up a little bit. If you're an Arkansas fan right now, yes, there's no moral victories. You did lose this game. If you're an Arkansas fan right now, how much better are you feeling from this game and from this season, knowing what you've had in the past?
Well, I mean, if I was an Arkansas fan, I feel like we're on the cusp of being a good to great team. It's about making that jump. All right, now you're middle of the pack. You're mediocre. You don't do things you need to do in certain situations that would make you into a great team. Look, it's easy to come and say, let's get rid of Sam Pittman. Let's go ahead and restart the process. Hey, it's not going in our favor. We're not having great seasons. It should be a matter of time. Patience is the biggest thing in college football. A lot of fan bases don't have it. They want instant rebuilds. It doesn't happen like that. So in some cases, it takes a long while, like the Arkansas rebuild has taken. I give credit to Sam Pittman. I think he's a good coach. He knows how to recognize talent. He knows how to develop talent, especially on the offensive line. He knows what he's doing. You just got to give him the time and the resources. Arkansas, if you compare the resources to all these other teams in the SEC, it's so middle of the pack. You're competing with the Alabamas, Georgias, Texases. I mean, you keep going down the list. All these other universities have way more NIL and way more attraction than Arkansas does. I mean, that's just the facts. But you gotta lean to your boosters. You got to lean to what's in the backyard there. You got Walmart, you got Tyson, you have all these other big brands, and I think Arkansas has done a fantastic job of utilizing those people. And slowly but surely, they're getting people out the portal, people in recruiting, and they're going to continuously build on this thing until they have reached a level where they're competing and the SEC for where they want to be. I'm sure they want to compete for the SEC championship. I know those fans desperately want to be in the playoffs. I mean, who doesn't at this point? It's just a matter of time. I think this game shows a lot about where you are, but still, you can still have slip-ups. So it's important to keep trying to take care of business. It's not an easy thing to do in the SEC. You're still one win away from making a bowl this season. That's going to be important for recruiting in the offseason. You don't make a bowl. That's the difference between winning and losing recruits. So it's a big thing for Arkansas moving forward. I think they definitely had the talent to do it. It's just a matter of the willpower. Ultimately falling short in this one, no moral victories, but they did look better this Saturday than they have most days.
Yeah, I agree. So now I'll go ahead and wrap up this week's Game of the Week edition of Arkansas versus Texas. We'll be back to continue this incredible end of the football season and continue with Game of the Weeks and recaps to each week. If you want to check more of those out, you can subscribe at Fan to Fan Sports down below. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see y'all next time.